Hey guys, continuing our Iamblichus' Exhortation to Philosophy, chapter 9. In the previous two videos I described the other things that he started the chapter with. So this is the third video, I think. So Iamblichus proceeds to say that a thing is either created by nature or not created by nature. He says if a thing is created by nature, it is useful. If it is not created by nature, it is worthless. And if we look at how he explains things, what he means by thing being created by nature, as I understand it, is a thing that is created by an ordered process. There's an order and harmony to the creation. And a thing that is not created by nature, what I understand him to mean by that, is that it's a thing that's created by chaos, disorder. He says, and there's no worth, there's worthless. And we kind of see this in the previous video, because if it's created by chaos and disorder, it is not created for the sake of something. There's no loop that goes around. It does not fulfill a purpose. It can be used potentially for different things, but it was not created from a purpose to fulfill a purpose. It's kind of like a chaotic, random thing. Doesn't mean we can't use it. We can use it, but compared to something that's created by nature, that thing is worthless, he says. And here he gives an example. He says, look at the animals. And look at the best of animals. And the best of animals, he says, is the human. And the proof of that, he says, is that the human can dominate all the animals. Even the most dangerous ones, I think he says. So that shows that the human is the best of animals. So now we look at this, and as always, now we try to figure out, contemplate it, what it tells us, what it means for us. Write in the comments what you understand this to mean and what ideas it springs from you. First of all, I want to mention, this is my interpretations now. I want to say that if the human is the best of animals, and in the previous chapter we saw that human is not exactly an animal, if it is the best of this category, or at least it can rule this category, it must be above animals. And if we look at the human, we see that it is made up of animal parts, physical body, the instincts, and so forth, the processes. But if it's possible for the human to dominate animals, then clearly there is some other part in the human that allows the human to dominate all other animals and species. What is that other part? That other part must not be an animal. It must not be that of animals. Or if it is, it must be an extremely exaggerated part. For example, if lion dominates the animals in terms of strength and vigor and force, then it's because that characteristic is much more in the lion than in the other animals. But then this animal can be bitten by a snake, and then it will die. But the human can dominate pretty much any animal, regardless of what the characteristic of the animal is, if we think about it. Against the snakes, we can use thick rubber shoes, for example, and gloves and so forth. Against the lion, we can use guns and anything else. How is it? What makes the human the best of kind of an animal and also not an animal? What allows the human to dominate all other animals? So this is just my contemplations now. It's not in this chapter. What does this must be something that is above other characteristics that animals have. We must be able to influence animals of any characteristic. So we must possess some kind of a higher characteristic that other animals do not have. And because of this higher characteristic, we can dominate other animals. What is this higher characteristic? Clearly, it is reason. Because with that, we can mold anything. We can look at any animal and figure out counter ways to counter this animal. If it's a lion, we use the gun. If it's a snake, we use the thick rubber, long shoes, and so forth. And so on. If it's mosquitoes, we use the repellents, and so on and on. So, what does this tell us? This tells us that we should study philosophy to figure out what is it in us that makes us the best of animals, that makes us be able to dominate all other animals. Clearly, it is not our animal nature, because then we would be just like them. They would overpower us. One type of animal would overpower one human, another type of animal would overpower another human. Clearly, it is not our animal nature that makes us the best of animals. Clearly, it is another characteristic. And this other characteristic is what we see in philosophy. It is the development of reasoning powers and wisdom. So this is the first thing that I understand by this chapter. This whole direction, I don't quite yet understand what this is all about. I guess maybe later we'll figure it out. So if you understand what this is about, how can a thing be created not by nature, like by chaos? How can chaos even exist in terms of Platonism and Neoplatonism? Is there really such a thing as chaos when we have the presence of the One, so to say, God, in every little thing? So, can there be such thing as randomness? Write in the comments what you, if you know what Platonism says about those things. I'd be very grateful as I'm learning this stuff myself. So that's it in this chapter. I'll meditate now for 15 seconds, and you can click on the video that YouTube will show, if it will show anything. If not, then just meditate with me.